an old Mitsubishi combined unit. It's got a tape player, a radio, and on top fits this nice linear turntable. It wasn't working when I got it. It's pretty rough condition as well, sort of all staying a bit beaten about. But it's interesting. You load 7 cassettes into this mechanism here, and it can play them one at a time if you want, or select which one. I've taken the front panel off from the back. It's just held on by a few screws, and the front panel you can maneuver it off. It's got all the little press switches which operate all these little switches on this panel here. It's a tuner for the radio. Doesn't appear to have a light behind it, but the radio's got FM, AM, medium wave. There's some sort of tone control boost, but I think it's got a power amp. You can connect speakers. I'm actually playing it out of the output just through here. It's got a sort of a mixer control, which actually acts as a volume control. So you can, the tape that's playing at the moment, you can sort of see the output and the frequency response. Now, it doesn't, this all jams up. I've had to turn it by hand. It's the thing that winds the cassette in, and then it pulls it back across the heads, and it starts it playing. The belts, this belt's alright. There's a belt down there, a tooth belt, and there's a belt round, you can't see it, there's a belt round the big capstan. They all seem fine. The grease is really stopping this wheel moving round. I have to move it by hand. It's got little 2 contacts here, one when it's fully in and one when it's fully out. It just stops it at one end or the other with this little sticking up part. And this mechanism here's got a motor that runs in. There's a little switch on that as well. They're a bit dirty. I've been winding in and out. Everything else seems okay. There's a relay down there. The mains comes in on here, exposed contacts, which I don't like on equipment. They should cover them over, so just be careful not to touch them. I'm not sure if the radio works, but it's not a worry at the moment. But you can see the string that operates the radio. It's typical of old radios, all this string that goes everywhere around this capacitor. The radio's got quite a lot, and this old equipment's funny. All the mechanical things that they put in them, it's just amazing. Japanese, it's like origami in metal. All these switches here that you press in on the front panel, these black ones, which are called the radio and the high boost, low boost, they operate these big black things here, operating switches down on the board. You can see them moving. It's funny. They've gone to all that. Now everything on modern equipment is all electronic with hardly no moving parts at all. Well, this old equipment this is probably from the 70s or early 80s. It's all mechanical with lots of moving bits and pieces. Anyway, I've got to take this off and clean the grease off it because it sticks when it's trying to load and unload, and then it just jams up. It's saying, a nice fluorescent display, it's playing tape 7. You can load 7 tapes in here. You can see the slots, you just put them in, and then you can play. There's a memory thing I haven't worked out yet, I haven't done that yet, where you can actually tape number, track, function, program it, tape number, A, B, track, all this. How much Mitsubishi book and the Optonica series, they were keen on all this programming stuff, which I'm sure Japanese like, but most other people didn't. Tape, it shows which tapes playing, normal, special or metal. You can record as well. You can play side A or B, and rewind and stop, pause, fast one. I haven't checked if they work yet anyway. I just trying to get this to work so you can see the tape going round. You can't really get to the heads at all, so you'll have to use a head cleaning tape, one of those little fairy tapes you put some liquid on to clean the heads, I guess. The amp, there's a big amp bolted to this heatsink, and that comes out on the back. Now the record deck itself, it sits on top and it plugs in the back with these two wires. Hopefully that's going to work. I haven't even plugged that in yet. I just wanted to get this working first. I haven't checked whether the amp works through speakers, but that's the last thing I need to do. So not many people play tapes anymore, but it's interesting, these things, to get them to work again. The tuning dial moves the strings all the way around to the back. It's very tight. Next tape program, this one. Oh yeah, it's coming. Now that was tape 7, so it's going to put it back into position 7, which it has. It's just got slightly stuck just there, and it's buzzing away. I'll just help it on its way until it hits that contact there, and it's wound it back in. It should stop when it's in, it's fully in. Yeah, it's gone off. So it's all looking good. I coupled up some speakers to the amp and it's working fine. The volume control knob is still on the front panel, so it operates a little slider down here. I can move it with this pen, and then turn it back up again. Goes pretty loud. Anyway, both channels are working. Now the balance works, because I've just got it on one channel at the moment, even though there's two speakers, they're actually joined together. Both channels work. Goes pretty loud. It's 30 watts, I believe. Let's look inside, and there's the pickup, turntable, the linear tracking, very sticky. That's going to have to be clean. You virtually stick your finger to that where the grease has gone horrible. Hopefully it's going to work. The belt's still there. Okay, the deck, this handily lifts up so you can get to the stylus and change it if necessary, clean it. There's the string that does the linear tracking backwards and forwards, and the motor and the belt on there, so you can check that. Clean this if necessary. Tells you what stylus you use. There's a sensitivity switch there, that's for detecting the tracks, the gap between the tracks. So now on the main unit, the radio, I've connected an aerial for AM just to the terminal on the back, and that actually works. There's a stereo indicator. I'm sure the FM will work too with a proper FM aerial. Now this green thing here is actually a lamp with a little green cover on it. It's incandescent lamp which lights up the display, and it's obviously gone, so I'm going to have to, it's a little P lamp I think they're called. I'll just check the voltage. It's probably low voltage. You just need to take that off and change that so you get light the display up. And the other thing is, although I've cleaned the grease off this, it's this belt is slipping. It feels quite tight, but it just keeps slipping. The motor keeps going round, but the belt slips, so I'm going to have to look into changing that belt. It's one that's a bit tighter. Replace that little P bulb. I used a 12 volt one in the end. I had some that were on wires, so Had to cut back the wires and get it through onto the circuit board. Seems quite bright. Hopefully it won't burn out, but it's now illuminates the dial. Okay, I found this piece that's broken off, bit of plastic inside, and it's probably why this doesn't go in and out smoothly. It's supposed to come out and you press that all the way and it's stopping. Now that piece I've discovered is broken off. You can't see it from this mechanism. This side's got two, one, can't see them, they stick out and run in grooves, and on this side there's only one. The other one that runs in the groove is that piece that snapped off, and that's causing it to jam. So I'm going to have to take this off and see if I can fix some sort of pin in there so that this can slide in and out without jamming just there. Also, while I'm about it, these buttons don't feel like they work. They're supposed to click, but they feel like they've jammed as well. Taking the fascia off and a couple more screws. That switch that was not working, the whole switch has been smashed in somehow. It must have been dropped or something on that corner, and it's completely broken the press switch out of its housing. So I don't think I can be fixing this. I'll have to fit a new one or something. So that's why that's those little press switches. This one was out. I just put it back in, but that one's completely bent out of shape. Also, now this got two things on that side and one on this side. So that was that one has snapped off. I might try gluing it. It doesn't have a lot of load on it, or I might have to drill and put a sort of a screw or stud in it. Either way, the switch is probably more important. There's the mechanism. It just runs in a couple of grooves and things. There's just go up and down a little bit there. Well, this side had some really big impacts, and I've taken it apart, and you can see that this metal plate that is supposed to be straight it's bent completely down, and is bent at the top out of shape as well. The whole thing is twisted, so I'm going to try and straighten that. And this was the buttons that were on it, and this button is completely bent and broken off. I can get another one of those buttons, and it's just a matter of soldering it in when it comes. Make sure these others work. And the piece that was snapped off, which side was it? I've actually glued it back on with some super glue. This little projection. Super glue doesn't stick to all plastics, and this Perspex I wasn't sure, but I put some on. I put it in position, and it is holding. And the only way to tell if it's going to stay in position is when we operate it. Doesn't really have much load on it, so hopefully it's not going to fall off again, which would be great. So this drive belt's been a bit stretched and was slipping on the pulleys. So I looked around and I found this O-ring. It's called an M25. It cost me 13 pence, including VAT, and just goes on there, wraps around, feels good, nice, flexible, tight. Let's just turn it on.
It's important from the perspective of that number of joules.
You can see now it's got to go all the way around. It used to stop before.
It's part of
Now it gets to the
aerospace
contact,
supply chain in the UK,
and it's just loading a
really critical for us,
cassette,
and the UK as a whole to have these high
and it goes round to the other side.
And you speak with experience, not just as an academic studying this, but you used to work there.
Yeah,
It's just changing the cassette over. So, about 13p. That's just on the radio at the moment. Let's just turn it down.
Here in Belfast, that is a capability that is really very rare globally, and
if you press play,
advanced aircraft that's
it should.
ahead of the game.
So, 13 pence fixed. Just got to finish doing this now. I got some replacement. They were cheap as well. Replacement press buttons. Just a matter of soldering one in there. Just have to make sure. Let's just turn this off. Just have to make sure you got the right height on the button. You can get different heights on the button. That's a low one. You can get them quite long. These are just low on here. It's close enough. And straighten this out, put it back together, and get this working. I've straightened out this metal bracket. Soldered in a new replacement micro switch, and reassembled it with the repaired little screen cover. And now to test it, so slowly press this, and it slides out on its own now, and the top goes up and comes back down. There's not very much load or anything on that pin, so I don't think it's ever going to come off. It slides in nicely now. Oops, I've just got to make sure that the that these things just press on the micro switches correctly now. So I'm just going to put that in and check the operation of them. There's another fault with this. When this goes back in, there's a latch a micro switch, and it's just not contacting because it won't work unless I push it fully in, and then it works. The stylus was completely gone, the actual needle, so I've had to buy a new stylus. Luckily I could find one on eBay for £15, and I put it in and it's tracking really good, and the frequency response is really good as well, especially the bass, and high frequency 16 kilohertz. Let's turn it down. Just playing it through the hi-fi at the moment. It will obviously play through the main unit. So I'm just going to finish this off and put it back together again. Just got to make sure that these switches works. I've finished repairing the turntable. After straightening out this bent corner here and replacing the micro switches and fixing the pin on the cover and getting these to work, so it's working now. So it comes out nicely. You can put the record in. The sensitivity, I just leave it on medium. The pickup cartridge comes out there, so you can clean it with a brush if necessary. As you can see, the little screen cover comes down. Left the top off at the moment so you can see it operating. It's plugged in the back of the amp. It uses the DIN socket and obviously the two phonos. We've got two speakers, Mitsubishi speakers on the amp section. Press. It's got this programming features that all works. You can select the track, but just press start. Good sound through these speakers, good bass and treble. Volume, just turn it down a minute. You can see the green display now that lights up, and I've replaced that bulb that had blown. Now you can play A or B. It's unusual, you can play this cassettes in two directions, which is pretty amazing. Most cassette players only play in one direction. So let's press A and it overrides the tape player. Also has this peak indicator showing that the tape's been recorded correctly, not too low. Turn the volume up a bit. Good sound, lots of bass and treble. Balance, of course. You can select Dolby on and off, and again you can choose tracks and programming. You can play it in the other directions. Playing A, just press B, and it skips to the other side. It's pretty amazing. All this works. Let's just press stop. You can open this. It's just taking the tape out, putting it into the cassette, and you can put 7 tapes in there. Radio works. Actually, I'm surprised how good the radio is. The sound, the amp and the sound through the speakers sounds very good indeed. I think that's about it. I can put the cover back on, and it's working good. Very good sound actually, and the record player sounds good. So you've got these controls didn't work before, but now you can see if I press lift, it comes up. You can press wind it across and press down. And you've got a stop. And then you go back to the beginning. These work as well, but I'm not going to go through all them. You can program the tracks and everything. Just checking the operation of the deck before I put the cover back on. It's playing the record. On here there's 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks. It's playing track 1. You can actually play, for instance, track 3 by selecting 3, pressing that. What it would do is it have to measure how many tracks there are, so it go back to the start, and then 1, 2, 3, then it'll lower down. And you can also make a complete program on here of what order the tracks you want to play in. So we could say play track 2 and then track 4 and then say track 1 memory, and then if we call it up, it'll go and should play track 2. And it will also play the others in the order that we programmed it in. So, and you can also raise and move this in any direction you want, say to the next track. with the lid on, it's hard to see where that is, so it's not a very useful function. And press down again. Just missed the end of the track. And of course, you can press stop as well, and you can repeat the whole record as well. So it's pretty comprehensive. Press stop, and it'll park down the end. You can also turn the deck off if you want, which will switch it to the main unit. So the final unit, the record deck, can go underneath the main unit. I think that's where it's meant to go. It's playing a LP at the moment, and you can switch to the cassette player. And well, we're just waiting for that to some on the wrong side. Let's try side B. Record, let's press that, and it will jump back to the record. And we can go to the radio.
I'm ready for them, both of us now. So just know that I want you.
So the radio's green, and we can go back to the tape. Slight difference in levels, that's all. And we can go back to the or we can take this out, and we can take these out. Press stop. Just takes the tape out, loads it back. I've got 2 tapes in there at the moment. You could have 7. And we can go back to the radio while we're doing that.
I'm getting such a response to this. Lois says, yep, I agree. I'm also obsessed with...
So that's the finished unit. Very good sound with whatever speakers you connect. This is obviously the main unit.
If you're obsessed with first dates and then you lose interest. The ultimate ghosting story next.